Hi, welcome back to WizNugs. Today we're talking about an ancient philosophy called Stoicism. Let's dive into what it is, what it isn't, and how it can be useful in your life.
A lot of times when you hear the word Stoic, the caricature that comes to mind, because I think you've seen it and I've seen it, is the emotionless face, right?
That Stoic specifically means emotionless.
Right, and I don't think it could be any further from the truth, to be honest, because in my interpretation of it, it's not so much about not having emotion or displaying emotion. It's deciding how to react to a thing with what emotion to respond it to, and then taking action upon it. And so the way that I would say it, we talked about this before. We talked about the emotional tunnel. And you're going to have that initial emotional response, and that you may not be able to ever control. But how you decide to respond to it after the fact is a choice. And you can choose to be, man, this is baloney, this is garbage, I can't believe this happened to me, it's not what I wanted. And you could dwell on it, or you can be, well, what happened wasn't anything that I could control. Therefore, how do I get myself around it or through it?
So the idea of Stoicism as being emotionlessness, I think, has its roots in really part of the philosophy, which is to be in control of yourself.
Right. That not to have these emotional outbursts, per se.
One of the hallmarks of Stoicism is controlling your reactions to things. So instead of freaking out about a thing and with a big emotional, fiery outburst, it's more, okay, what am I going to do about this? Being purposeful. What do I want to do going forward? Is this something that I need to let people know how I feel? Or is this something where my emotions are just going to get in the way of this? I have them. I feel them. They're still real. They're still true in the sense that they're mine and they represent, the truth of how I feel. But they're not helpful in the situation. So I'm going to feel them and allow them to be a thing. But now I have to make a choice about what I'm actually going to do in the situation.
But to be like, okay, is this emotional helpful to me to be able to deal with the situation? No. So I'm not going to feed into it. I'm not going to keep building on top of this emotion and making it to the point where now it's completely unbearable. It's a recognition of, okay, I don't want to continue to feel this way. What can I do to change it?
Right. So let's get into that, because I think that feeds kind of really what, instead of saying what Stoicism isn't.
Right.
Let's talk about what it is.
Yeah.
So it's an ancient philosophy with its roots in Greece, and it's really you could sum it up in it's two lines: control what you can control, and accept what you can't control.
Right.
And that's it.
And we talked about radical acceptance before.
Yep.
And it is a little bit of that, if not completely, radical acceptance. You cannot control the things that happen in your life, the positive things or the bad things. Whatever those things are that happen, they're going to happen to you regardless.
Yep.
So what do you want to do going forward? If it's something I can't control, all right, it might be something terrible. It's possible. It might be something awesome. How do I want to handle it? And is it something that I can bear and move forward with? Or is it something like, nope, not going to do this. I'm not going to play this game. So what can I do to change myself or change the situation enough for me to be able to get around it or through it?
What you just said reminded me, one of the kind of the hallmarks of Stoicism in like modern day. It's a philosophy that's basically built for memes and like that quote template of there's the picture of the philosopher and then their quote with the attribution.
Sure.
It is built for that because there's all these little statements that are just so full of meaning and they're so compact. Like one of them, famously, Marcus Aurelius said, if something is bearable, I'm gonna butcher it, but it's okay because it's all translation in English anyway.
Sure.
Basically, what he said was, if it's bearable, then bear it and get on with it. Like that's what it's about. If something is unbearable, then you act to change it. That's it.
Yeah. So I try to emulate this as best as I can for the majority of my life that I can even recall. Going back to not having a lot of friends and having the absentee biological father. It was a realization that was nothing that I was going to be able to control. I wasn't going to be able to make him be the father I wanted. And I also wasn't going to be able to convince other kids that I was a good kid and I was a good friend and a good person to be around. They had to realize it on their own or not realize it. And so it was that radical acceptance of, well, this is not anything I'm going to be able to change. If they decide that this is something they want for themselves, then they will see forth about ways to be able to make it happen. But I'm not going to be able to convince them otherwise, and I'm not going to waste my time trying to make them see what a good person I was. So I'm going to continue to be the good person that I think I need to be, and hopefully I'll attract the people that are going to be the people I want to have in my life anyway.
That reminds me of again, and these statements. They just kind of all flow together.
Right.
We've read a couple of them. They all kind of start to swim around and commingle into this, and that's basically what the philosophy is about: is living with virtue.
Right. And
Now,
so,
in the Stoic virtues are very specific, so it's not like this nebulous, just goodness, as we might understand the term virtue today.
and so what are they?
The four bedrock virtues of Stoicism, according to the Daily Stoic, which has an awesome video about this, just 3 minutes long, and it kind of just gets into the basics of it.
And we do follow you, Daily Stoic, just so you know.
The four virtues are courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. Courage is basically being able to face what's around you. It's going out and living. It's taking action. It's that motivating force of getting out of bed when you don't want to. It's getting up and doing the task that you maybe are regretting having signed up for or whatever. But it's just doing. It's do the thing.
I've heard of it as rise to the challenge.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to have something that comes, it's going to confront you, whether it's work, whether it's life, whether it's whatever, family. Something's going to be put in front of you that you're going to have to deal with. Have the courage to face it and don't run away.
Well, and yes, and that life is struggle.
Right.
That's a hallmark of life.
And that life is going to be hard. That's a known factor.
Exactly. And the question is, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Are you going to hide in your room because it's safe and comfortable, or are you going to face the challenges that are out there?
And the second tenet.
So the second virtue is temperance, which basically means controlling yourself, controlling your appetites, your passions. It's about setting boundaries and living within them.
Knowing not to when and when not to indulge in a particular thing, maybe, right? Overindulge, I should say.
Sure. So in this case, if you're eating cake for every meal, you're not living according to the virtue of temperance.
Not be hedonistic, right? Not to indulge yourself on all of the pleasures and all of the things. It may feel good to you at the time, but is it a purposeful life? Is it something that's keeping you tempered and controlling yourself? And it's going to actually help you drive yourself into being a better version of yourself, which is also a little bit apart what Stoicism is about.
So that brings us to justice. And in this case, we're not talking about the criminal justice system where the people are represented by two sides. Chon chon. Law and Order reference. It's about taking personal responsibility for the things that you've done, the things that you haven't done. It's about the things that you're responsible for, living up to that. It's about taking that on voluntarily and living it.
And sometimes that's hard because some of the things that happen to us are discouraging. And it puts us in a very low level, low energy level, low enthusiasm level. And it's hard to then want to then take responsibility for, well, the only person that's going to get me out of this funk is me. And what do I need to do that? And sometimes it's very cumbersome or challenging to be able to rise to the occasion, again, going back to the first one, and taking action on this. Is what do I need to do to move forward with this, and I'm going to be responsible for this.
Yeah, and it goes to take it just another level. I don't know if that's deeper or shallower, but to take it even back a step further than that, to not take credit for other people's successes,
Right,
and to not pawn off your failures on someone else.
Right.
That if you try to get out of, it's natural. Toddlers, when it's they get caught coloring on the wall. Who did this? The dog? It's any lie to get out of anything that you can. But if you've done the thing, do the crime, do the time. If you've done something, make it right. Do what you can to make it right. That's part of taking responsibility.
And on that, a little slight tangent on that. This is one of the things I've said before. Sometimes you get into a place where you're looking around, something's going on in your life, and you're looking for someone to be that support system for you. We've talked about accountability buddy, but maybe you're in a situation where that person isn't there, and I'm looking for the beacon. Where's the beacon? Who can I rely on? And there's nobody there. Be the beacon. Be the pillar. And that's hard, but it is taking action. And it's like, look, everything's turmoil right now, and I'm looking around for examples of how I should be or how I should handle this, and there isn't any. I guess I have to be the example. And it's a large part of ownership and saying, okay, I can't rely on anything else but myself, so I'm going to rise to the occasion. I'm going to be the pillar. I'm going to be the beacon. And I'm going to be the example of how to handle these things. And hopefully someone can now look at me and say, oh, well, look, there, he's the beacon over there. I'm going to be like that guy, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
But at the very minimum.
Well, and even if they don't, that doesn't stop you. And that's probably the overarching mentality to all of this is even with, the four main virtues is it doesn't matter what other people are doing.
Correct.
That's not your responsibility. That's outside of your control. That's outside of your purview. They're going to do what they're going to do. You choose what you're going to do.
And if you've been longtime watchers or listeners to our show, you know that we emphasize this pretty much with every subject we've covered so far.
So that brings us to the fourth virtue, which is wisdom. So in this case, the way I understand it is basically what they're talking about when they say wisdom is it includes knowledge. It includes personal growth in terms of your mental state. It's about learning more, not just more information, but also more how to apply that information. Maybe what we might call wisdom, today on the WizNugs channel.
Right. And for me, I tend to define wisdom slightly different. My interpretation of wisdom is being able to apply knowledge intelligently. And so you might know that I can use a hammer to knock in a nail, but if you're using the wrong end of it, you're going to not have the desired effect. It's the wisdom to know how to apply the knowledge that you've gained effectively. And so there's been a lot of times in my life where somebody who I had deemed to be, well, that guy seems like he has a lot of knowledge. He's probably very smart. And they end up doing something that is totally contradictory to that. And I'm like, well, that wasn't a very smart choice, right? So they didn't have the wisdom to apply the knowledge that I knew that they had, and they continued to make choices that were not implementing the wisdom that they should have used.
That's it in a nutshell. That's Stoicism. And you can see, hopefully, viewers at home, it's a very simple, small topic, but it has effects that can reach everywhere. Because ultimately what we're saying is if you're taking personal responsibility and you're facing what's in front of you and you're not dawdling around with overconsumption or anything, things that are going to drag you down, you're going to have the energy and the wherewithal to move forward. And that's what it's all about. You move forward with what you can do. That sounds like a purposeful life. That sounds great.
Right. And it is going in with the realization that life is going to be hard. It's going to be a challenge. And it's not trying to be a negative mentality or a nihilistic type of philosophy towards things.
We'll cover that one on a future episode.
Sure. But it is with the reality is that there's going to be challenges. And I want to be able to take action when these challenges come and handle them appropriately. And when I say appropriately is with as less friction on you as you can. It's the idea that there's things that are going to happen that I can't control, but what can I do? What actions can I take? And then can I be courageous in those actions and making sure that I'm doing what I need to do to face the challenge? And having the wisdom to be able to deal with it.
Well, that's putting all these things together. Also, it sort of implies a certain amount of preparation for the future.
Yeah.
So that if you know that life includes suffering and you know that you're going to take responsibility for yourself, well, that does include things like learning how to budget. Yeah. That may not be like a Stoic virtue of budgeting, but that's part of temperance, not overspending. It's part of wisdom, learning how to apply your knowledge. And it's taking personal responsibility for yourself so that you can move forward with courage into the future. You're looking forward to a possible eventuality where you're going to need money saved because, bad things happen.
One of the things that my wife and I have done, and it may seem morbid to some people, but we've already have everything planned out for our funerals. We've already have a plan in place. We've already been paying for it. So when the day comes that we pass, it's handled. No one else is going to have to deal with it because we know this day is coming. And so we're planning accordingly for it. I didn't want to have that burden fall on my kids. And I feel genuinely bad for people, and I don't know if any of you have ever seen this or not. It's you're driving, going somewhere, and you see someone having the donation car wash, or they're trying to get a collection going for somebody who has passed suddenly, or they just didn't plan for it. And I feel bad for them that they're in a financial now. Not only are they dealing with the emotional issues that come along with it, but now they're also dealing with the financial part of it because they didn't prepare for it. And not necessarily everyone can prepare per se, but do what you can. Plan for it.
Right.
Knowing that it's going to come. And that's the thing. Things are going to come that are hard and tragic. Plan the best that you can.
Help those around you is, maybe we could call that the fifth virtue, is pay it forward. It's not about like you're responsible for other people.
Right.
But when you see people struggling around you and you know that you can do something to help alleviate that struggle, you can do that.
Whether it's within your own family, by trying to take care of everything you can so that no one else has to deal with whatever you leave behind, or it's having that compassion and the ability to recognize I'm in a position that I can help somebody who's in a hard time, and I'm going to do that thing because I can. And not because of self-importance or self-recognition. I'm not going to go out and secretly record myself, me giving money to somebody to show you how virtuous and awesome I am. I'm just going to do it. And I'm not even going to tell them my name. I'm not going to give them my information. I'm just here you go.
And whether you do or don't, that's on you, and that's how you choose to be. That's not necessarily like a Stoic virtue to do it or not do it. That's a personal choice.
Sure.
Another application of the Stoic virtues, sticking them all together, it might be taking care of your physical health. Making sure that you're getting exercise, making sure that your body can handle the rigors of life, knowing that there are going to be challenges, knowing that there's going to be things that happen that are going to require you to have a certain level of physical strength. You should have that.
Yeah.
You should work on that. You should plan for an eventuality where you're going to need to do hard things. So that's another one of these things. If you go through, now there's some of the names are of the Stoic philosophers are really fun, cool names. They're just fun to say.
I'm not even going to try.
Zeno and Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, probably one of the more famous ones. But there's a lot of books that are all about this, and you can dig deep into these philosophies. And there's Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. It's just got a ton of like they're almost like one-liners, like they were designed to be shared on like a Stoic of the Day calendar.
Sure.
Again, thanks Daily Stoic. But to be able to consume one of these little things and just kind of meditate on it throughout a day is really a helpful way of shoring up your wisdom so that you can apply the principles that you're learning, whether they be Stoic principles or whatever. You're in school, you're in your job. There's constant learning as part of this.
What I would say in summation in this particular one is it's a great philosophy to have in life. It doesn't necessarily come easy. There's going to be many times where you think that you got it locked down and okay, I know I'm going to handle this. Something happens and it throws you for a loop. It's about trying to instill the discipline to make sure that you're continuing on that path even when you falter. And it's going to happen because life is hard and things are going to happen that's going to throw you off the path. But have that discipline to get yourself back to where you need to be because you know that's a better way to be. Now, I'm not saying this is a cure-all for everybody. I just know it has worked well for me in my life to help me keep balance, to help me know that there's things that I can affect and things that I can't. And I want to focus on the things that I can.
Thanks for joining us today on WizNugs. If there's something that we've said that's resonated with you, please consider giving us a subscribe. Also, we like the likes. Any comments that you leave, it all helps. This is also available in podcast form wherever podcasts are found.
Thank you for joining us again for another one of our episodes, and we'll hope to see you next time.
Thanks for joining us today on WizNugs. If you liked what you heard, spread the word. For more information, head over to mywiznugs.com.